All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Super Bros podcast. As always, this one is for the bros. We're in 2025 now. Doesn't feel real, but we're here. So happy New Year, everybody. Hope you guys had a great 2024. And we are actually joined by our very first female guest, Darci Molina. Happy to have you on. How's it feel?
Feels pretty cool to be the first female on the Bros podcast.
I know, right?
It
We were
also
trying.
feels
We're
fitting.
trying all last year to get somebody on. Just didn't work out. So it's really cool that. Oh, you can hear my dog in the background. Hey, Nova, you good? She just wants to go outside. Let me let her outside real quick.
She wants to be the other female on the podcast.
She is. She's the star of the show.
I think dogs should always be the star of the show, in my personal opinion. You can quote me on that. Dogs are.
Oh yeah, 100%. Let me turn this light on too. Actually, yeah, she's great. She's a German Shepherd, so she just has a lot of energy. Back to where we were doing. It feels good to be first female guest on the show. So
Yeah. Feels
happy to
fitting
have you.
too. I'm
What's
a
that?
bro-ish. I said it feels fitting. I'm a bro-ish chick.
Yeah, I feel like when you have someone that likes bro things, but they're a female, they have a really good perspective from both sides. So definitely, definitely valuable to have you on. So you are the current women's weightlifting American Open champion.
Yes.
Tell me about that. How's it feel after you've had a few weeks to process the victory, but you've been riding the high? So let's talk about that.
Yeah, I actually got really good advice from a fellow competitor. He asked me the same thing, like, how are you feeling? And my response was really proud, but I'm ready for the next thing. And his advice was this sport and our longevity in this sport or any competitive athletic pursuit is shorter than we think. And he told me, slow down and enjoy it a little bit longer before you move on to that next goal. And I actually thought that was awesome advice. But that's exactly how I feel. I feel proud and I feel excited for the next steps. We went into this meet with a great headspace. We had a great prep programming wise. So it's all the hard work that you do when you're competing is in your home gym. And that's the way I look at competitions. When you show up the day of, you're just there to show all the hard work that you've already done. So I don't get show day nerves. I just get really excited because it's basically my time to like show my skills off and have some fun and play. And that's the goal, but it's very rare that on game day all your stars align. But when that happens, it feels fantastic. And that's exactly what happened at AO finals. All my
That's
stars
awesome.
aligned and it was
Yeah.
incredible.
Those are
Yeah.
the types of performances that you really just kind of hope and pray for because you're like, hey, I've done all the work, all the hay's in the barn, and now I just have to go and perform. So that's super cool. What was the margin of victory for you? Was it pretty high, or was it just kind of like one of those meets where you're like, I'm close with this other girl and I have to pull out a win here?
This is the other fun thing about competing is you might think but you really have no idea. I always like to look at the competitor lists because it amps me up. So I looked at my competitor list ahead of time. There was one girl that I was really excited to compete against. Alexia is her name. I think her last name is Gonzalez. She's a great weightlifter. So I was really excited to compete against her. And she ended up having an injury and pulling out 2 weeks before. And
Oh,
that
gotcha.
actually took some gas out of my own tank because I really wanted that like push and that fight with her.
Right.
And then at the last minute, again, you never know what's going to happen. They keep registration open until the week before the meet. So at the last minute, another girl added, which I was talking to my coach about it. She's somebody that I have looked up to for years. Her Instagram name is Jay Frank. Her name's Jess Franklin, I think.
I think that sounds familiar. I think I've heard of her actually.
Yeah, she's incredible. So I was like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I'm going to get to compete with Jay Frank. And then at weigh-ins, she wasn't there. So
That
you can
sucks.
see how this just kept going and going and going.
Yeah.
And when she wasn't there, I had mixed emotions. Again, sad that I wasn't going to have my person that I thought I was going to go tit for tat for,
Mm-hmm.
but also excited because I'm thinking, okay, well, this looks good for me now. But there was another competitor. I had looked at her numbers, but this girl, kind of same thing as me. I think she showed up and had all her stars aligned and she was having a great day. And unexpectedly, her and I were going back and forth on snatch.
Okay.
Which I love that. Give me the fight. Whether they're
Great.
chasing me or I'm chasing them, I love that. So that was actually really fun. She was very competitive. When we got to clean and jerks, I actually just, I don't know if people are familiar with the sport, but essentially the weight on the bar only ascends. So the order of go or the order of athletes can be extremely jumbled. Some people
Right.
may finish all three of their lifts before another person even takes their first one. It just depends on the weight on the bar and what these athletes are attempting. So when it came to the clean and jerk, I actually was the last lifter. Everyone was completely finished before I even started.
Hmm.
So that feeling was kind of surreal. Typically I'm a spectator watching these high level athletes come on stage last when everyone else is finished and they just follow
Right.
themselves. And
Right.
that to me that's an insane feat. Like that is somebody so strong. And then we got to clean and jerks and everyone was done and my coach was like, "You ready? You're going to follow yourself." And I kind of like looked around.
It was like a full circle moment.
Yeah, I was like,
That's
"What?
super
I'm
cool.
that person today?"
Yeah.
And it was incredible. It was my day that day, and which is awesome because the next time it might not be, and that's just the
Yeah.
nature of the sport. But yeah, competitor wise, you never know, and it changed 3 or 4 times in ways I could never predict, and that's another thing I like about this sport is it will humble you. If you think you know where you're at, somebody will show up and prove you wrong.
Yeah. Did you have a lot of confidence with calling your shots when you took each attempt, or was it kind of like, this is unknown territory for me?
Yes, and yes.
Yeah.
So it was unknown territory in terms of the weights that we were opening at were heavier than I had ever opened before, and the weights that we were going to finish at, I think even some of my second attempts were weights that I had never even tried on the platform. So it was unknown territory, but at the same time, again, we just had this great prep and I felt very confident about the numbers. And that's something my coach usually has a plan. Wes Cravey at West Coast Weightlifting, love him to death. He's usually got a plan, and I've usually got my plan. I'm also a stubborn athlete, and I think I'm very in tune with my body, how I'm feeling mentally and physically that day. So he's great at us balancing our two plans.
Hmm.
The plan we went with was actually his plan, which going into it, I told him I was apprehensive about. And then once we got rolling, I was like, nope, this is the plan. You were right. Let's run it. So it was a little bit of both. I was very confident, but I was also like, these are waters we've never been in, but I feel ready, so let's run it.
That's awesome. So let's take a step back. Well, first of all, I love the advice about not focusing on what's next right away. You're totally right. Like those moments are fleeting whenever you experience that. I think the thing that feels the best is knowing that all of your hard work went into achieving that goal. So congratulations on that. But let's take a step back. We were talking about it a little bit earlier before we started, but you and I met somewhere around 2019,
Yeah.
maybe beginning, end of 2019. And it was at a CrossFit competition. You were doing some type of vendor. You were a rep for, I think it was Born Primitive.
Yeah,
But
probably.
we developed a friendship there. And then I went on my path, joined the military, kind of lost touch. But you saw this kind of like this small rise to stardom. So it's pretty cool to see your following grow, your numbers go up. What got you into weightlifting, and what made you transition from CrossFit? I'm assuming you were into CrossFit more and then you actually got into Olympic weightlifting. What did that for you?
So first of all, I like to dabble. I love to try new things. And I actually have a hard time sticking with things typically. Not because they become challenging. I actually like the challenge. It's because I get bored.
Hmm.
So I was in CrossFit at the time. 2 years prior to that, I actually wasn't doing CrossFit. I was doing powerlifting, which I did in 2016 and 17, just powerlifting. I stopped competitive powerlifting, went back to CrossFit when I was in school because it was so much easier. It's a 1 hour workout. You could do morning or night. You're in, you're out, you're done. So I went back to CrossFit while I was in school. And once I got done with school, I'm really competitive. So I wanted to compete again. But the barbell always has a draw. Like I love strength sports. So I had already done powerlifting and I kind of wanted to go down a different route. So I chose Olympic weightlifting. And I figured I was going to run it for until I got bored. But
Hmm.
like I said, I love a challenge. And Olympic weightlifting has been a challenge for me because having that powerlifting background, I came in extremely strong, but I had really poor technique. So it was very interesting to be able to hit these high numbers with crummy technique and then have all these coaches picking me apart because one side of me says, well, I'm doing good. Look at these numbers I'm hitting. And then having a coach pick me apart and be like, yeah, but you did this, this, and this wrong. And if these get better, your numbers will go up even more. And that kind
Right.
of opened my ears, being somebody that loves the barbell, loves strength training, a little bit of a meathead. I was like, I can get more numbers if I fine tune my technique. And then we just
Mhm.
went down that rabbit hole, and it never stopped. And this is the longest I've ever stayed in a singular sport. And it's also been challenging in recent years because as we've gotten to this more competitive level, it means cutting out some of the leisurely things that I typically enjoy. I used to wake surf when I lived back in Michigan. I've tried surfing out here in California. I like rock climbing. I was doing dance for a while, but anything that I do that isn't weightlifting is extra stress on my body, and it's taking away my recovery. And that's kind of a sacrifice I had to give up, which was tough because, again, I like to dabble, I like to try new things. And I'm surprised that I've stuck with weightlifting. It's been 5 years, going on 5 years now, without diverging into another sport. So that just kind of shows me this is still challenging me, which is awesome. Um, and I really do love it. So I'm here for the long haul. Oh no, where'd you go? There you
No,
are.
you're good. Yeah, that's super cool. I think a lot of athletes, I mean, including myself, like you see the shiny objects and you get the shiny object syndrome. You're like, oh, I want to try this, or I want to go max out every day, or I want to try this sport. I want to try this sport. But it's I think that those who are the most successful are consistent. What were the biggest things that you needed to address in your technique that helped you get better as you started to learn more and more about the sport?
Yeah, that's a great question. Initially, like I vividly remember when I very first started in powerlifting, you tend to be more on your hind foot. You're sitting
Hmm.
more in your from kind of like midfoot to heel. And in weightlifting, you're more midfoot to forefoot. And I had such a hard time getting off of my heels. So my weight placement, my center of mass, my center of gravity was all kind of off.
Hmm.
So I essentially was muscling the bar, whereas that's more powerlifting style, right? To muscle the bar compared to Olympic weightlifting, which is more like a dance with the bar. You and the bar are trying to be one fluid motion, and you move your body around the bar. You don't move the bar around your body. So that mentality was the hardest one at first, was weight placement in my feet. Since then, some of the things that we've been dialing down, like over this past year, are my bar acceleration timing. So again, powerlifting, you kind of just want to like rip it and grip it, or grip it and rip it, right? Right off the floor, you're going to get that deadlift and you're just going to pull like an animal. And that was how I would pull my cleans. There you are. I'm like, are you
There
still
we
there?
go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was kind of how I would pull my cleans. And we had to do a lot of conversations, a lot of trial and error. That's all lifting is, right? Good reps and bad reps. And you try to latch onto the good ones and get rid of the bad ones.
Right.
So we've been working on timing of my pull of my bar, waiting for that acceleration at the right time. And then a couple positional things. We've been working recently a lot on my posture and receiving my clean, so my front squat posture, so that
Gotcha.
I catch that bar upright instead of with a tired and concaved rounded back that I then have to fight as I stand it up.
Okay. So for those who are maybe new to the sport or who don't necessarily understand what weightlifting is, obviously like I have a background in powerlifting too, and then weightlifting through CrossFit, but for those who've never been to a meet or even know what it is, what is the goal of Olympic weightlifting
Yeah.
as a competitor?
That's a great question. And it's interesting too, the number of people that mix up powerlifting and weightlifting, Olympic
Right.
weightlifting. So powerlifting, squat, bench, deadlift. Those are your three movements. You get three attempts at each. Olympic weightlifting is a similar structure with different movements. So you're doing two movements instead of three. The two movements are the snatch, where you take the bar from ground to overhead in one movement, no stopping point in the middle. And then the second lift is the clean and jerk. It's a two-part lift. You're going to take the bar from the ground to your shoulder, stand it up, and then go from the shoulder overhead. And there's different ways you can do jerks, but those are the two parts. And same thing, you get three attempts at each of those lifts. So the goal is you need to make at least one of each. You need to make at least one snatch and at least one clean and jerk, because then you're given what we call a total, and that's where you're ranked or placed. Your total
Mhm.
within your weight class. and age category compared to other lifters in the same weight class and age category. The ultimate goal is to not just make one of each, right? But you want to do what we call the opener, the very first lift. You want it to be heavy enough that you can climb from there and have a competitive third attempt. But you also want to start conservative enough that you know you're going to make that first rep. Because again, the weight on the bar only ascends, it only goes up. So if you miss that first lift, you can't go down in weight to try and make it. You have to
Right.
either stay or go up.
Right.
So there's a little bit of finesse to it that's typically on the coach. Um, but yeah, main goal, make one of each, get a total. On a best case scenario day, you're going to go what we call 6 for 6, meaning you made all 3 snatches, all 3 clean and jerks, and have a great total at the end result.
Yeah. Did you go without a coach for a very long time, or were you always latched on to somebody that could kind of see like an outside perspective?
Most of the time I had a coach. When I was in Michigan, I trained at a facility there for just under a year. And then that is when there was a little bit of a falling out with that coach. And so I was solo from November to March. So like 4 or 5 months. I did my own programming.
Right.
I took myself to AL finals that year, which I believe was 2020. No,
Wow. Okay.
that was 2021. I took myself to AO finals, but that's where I got in touch with Jared Fleming, who is a coach in Utah. And
Hmm.
he actually counted cards. It's called counting cards. Basically, he ran the meet for me. He coached me at that competition and we vibed. And so I hired him. And so he was
Yeah.
my remote coach where
Uh,
he lived in Utah. I was living in California. He wrote me programming. We did that for probably about 3 or 4 months. And then when I was here in Cali, I found a gym that I loved. And I had a conversation with Jared, who is such an awesome coach. And he basically told me if you have the opportunity to work with somebody in person, your rate of learning and you're going to excel so much faster, you should do that. That's a very confident and wise coach who actually cares about the success of somebody in the sport rather than being a possessive coach. So shout out to Jared Fleming for being an awesome person.
yeah.
And that's where I found West Coast Weightlifting here in California. And I've been working with Wes Cravey pretty much ever since I got here. So since I think April or May of 2022.
So was it the coach that drew you to California, or were you already out there for another reason?
I was already out here. I needed a reset on my life.
Okay.
I had horrible work-life balance in Michigan.
Yeah.
And the easiest way to reset your life is to uproot it. And so that's what I did.
That's a way to view it. I mean, honestly, it's pretty much what I did too. Like I graduated college and then not very many people know it, but I was literally sleeping in a chair at my parents' house and I was like, I need to do something else. So
Reset.
uprooted and ever since it's been gone. So
That's the
totally
thing, right?
understand that.
I
Yeah,
came to Cali and I started my own business and I started working with a weightlifting coach in person that I really vibe with. And just everything has gotten exponentially better since I uprooted my life. The only
that's awesome.
downside is all my family's back in Michigan. So, hi, family. I miss you guys.
Hi, family. I'll wave to mine too. They listen to this sometimes, so it's pretty cool.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, you get to go back to Michigan for the holidays. Did you get a chance to travel back or no?
Yeah. Yeah. We
That's
went
awesome.
back, short trip. I really
Okay.
hate the snow. That was another reason I got out of
You
there.
don't like the snow? Come on.
The only time I like it is if we're snowmobiling, which we don't do anymore. So,
That's fair. It just kind of like, in my opinion, it just destroys everything because you're like, oh, I have a nice car. Well, it's got rust
not
now.
anymore.
So yeah. Did you drive or fly?
I drove. I did a cross
You
country
drove?
trip with my best friend. We made pit stops. We hiked in Arizona. We got
That's cool.
tattoos. Oh yeah, we made a girl
What
trip
tattoo
out of it.
did you get? I see you have a sleeve now. That's
I
pretty sick.
do. Yeah, we've got the whole. This was from a girl in Michigan, actually. Dot matrix. If anybody wants awesome dot work and geometric work. No, I got. I don't know how to show it. It's just little dots on my forearm.
What does it have a symbolism to it or is there a meaning?
It does. I have ridden horses from the time I was 9 until I was 30. My horse passed away when I was 30, at 24 years old, which is a great age for a horse. But he was a former racehorse. And you know how you can
Mhm.
microchip a dog? Race horses get tattoos on their upper lip to identify them. in
Really?
case there's change of ownership or anything like that. You're getting the right horse.
That's
So
cool.
his racing number was 49455, and those are what the dots are. It's rows, four
Oh,
dots, 9, 4, 5, and 5.
that's very cool. I just thought you liked dots for a second.
There's some on the back of my arm too. That's actually his name in Braille.
That's awesome. That's super cool. That's a super
I
cool
just
story.
like
I didn't know
dots.
that. Yeah. I just like shapes. That's cool. Did you say you were 30? I had
Yeah, I'm actually
I
about to
don't
be
want to ask.
33.
I'm going to break the rule here, but how old are you?
I'm about to be 33.
Really?
Yeah.
How old were you when we met then?
I mean, if it was 2019, so that would have been almost 6 years ago. So I would have been 27.
Wow, I did not know. I thought we were the same age.
And everyone, when people guess my age, they guess I'm between like 24, 26 usually.
Yeah, I was going to be like, well, I mean, everyone just stays 25 if I haven't seen him for a long time, so she's 25 still. But
I'll take
that's
it.
that's super cool. Yeah, no, take the compliment. Like
Yeah,
weightlifting's great, guys.
I'm a geriatric in my sport.
Right?
I'm actually almost there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because like the more that we learn about the human body and what it can respond to as far as stress goes, like there's no excuse to not be in shape into your 30s, 40s, well into your old age. So it's like I don't know. To some people, I probably still look the same that I did when I was like I don't know, freshman in college. But I feel like I've aged a little bit. But I'm going to be 30 in a few years, so I'm like, huh, I
Still
don't look
hanging in
bad.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're hanging in there. We're oldies. We've got a high training age, so that's
My
cool.
God, you're telling me.
So kind of maybe this is a hot take, but I feel like me growing up, I only had interest in football, right? I didn't know anything about these more, I don't want to say exotic sports. They've been around forever, but like weightlifting or rugby, soccer, Olympic wrestling. I went to school and we had a Olympic training site. So that was really cool to be able to be around those athletes. I just didn't have a strong opinion on any of those sports. Do you think that America is too close-minded when it comes to sports? Or
Know
do
that
you have an
we're
opinion on it?
I don't know that we're close-minded, but I do think there needs to be more exposure for some of these lesser known sports. Half the time I say Olympic weightlifting, people assume powerlifting. And then when I tell
Right.
them it's not powerlifting, they ask me, well, then what is it? Because they have no idea.
Hmm.
I do think there needs to be more exposure. I do think that there needs to be greater ease of access too. I'm going to complain. USAW, that's my federation. I'm going to complain about you guys for a second,
Go
and they're
ahead.
probably never even going to hear it, but their website is terrible, awful.
Right.
It is so not user friendly. To do anything on there is so difficult. And for somebody like me, I just finished telling you earlier today, I'm not tech savvy at all. I was
Right.
nervous about clicking this link for Riverside, which was super easy, but
I'm going to get spammed.
so things like that, I think, dissuade people from getting into the sport, right? You want ease of entry. You want ease of access to a consumer. And without that, there's
Give
this
me give me
barrier.
1 second. I'm going to let her inside.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. No, you're good. She's telling you, let her in.
I know.
Maybe you should leave it.
What a dog.
Nova the
Hey,
turd.
Nova, lay down. Okay, she's just giving me a stank
I'm
face.
actually surprised that mine aren't going nuts right now.
I know. It's okay. I can edit that, so I'm not worried about it. So ease of access with the website. Go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah. I think that I run my own business, right? And I want ease of access to potential clients
Right.
because you're going to lose people if the point of entry is a burden.
Hmm.
So I do think that's something that USAW could work on, and I'm sure plenty of other sports could too. More advertisement, ease of entry to the sport, easy ways to get knowledge about the sport. But I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know that we're closed minded. I think maybe we have an exposure issue.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that because there's, obviously the mainstream sports that you get like football, basketball, and sometimes I think they become, like pay to play sports almost. And a lot of kids get turned off to sport because their family can't afford to put them through or whatever it might be. So, I think it really just takes somebody who's a subject matter expert that's willing to put time into kids and kids athletics and actually teaching them technique, because it's, I've seen people as young as 5, 6 years old who are learning how to clean and jerk a PVC pipe. And it's like, that's really cool. That's a skill that they're going to be able to take with them, whether or not they go pro. At least they'll be able to move well for the rest of their life, hopefully. So I think the impact of being more well rounded and having, I guess, a more open view towards different sports is huge. So
Yeah,
definitely agree with you on that. Um, so you said you started your own business.
it
When
did.
did you do that, and what is it?
I started that business when I moved out here to California. So
Hmm.
I'm a physical therapy assistant. I had my license in Michigan, which I transferred to California when I moved here in 2022. And I worked in outpatient physical therapy. Like if you hurt your back or if you had a shoulder surgery and then you have to go to therapy afterwards, that kind of a setting. But being an athlete myself and working with a lot of athletes at the clinic that I worked at in Michigan, there are just so many loopholes in the healthcare system and insurances, and high level or high functioning patients fall through the cracks. Because essentially, if you can do daily activities, insurance companies go, all right, well, we're not going to pay for insurance anymore. You're functional. And
Hmm.
they completely negate the other part of therapy that matters, in my opinion, almost, I don't want to say more, it matters as much, which is quality of life. So if there's an athlete who can do normal daily functions, but they can't return to sport, their quality of life is diminished. And to me, they shouldn't be leaving therapy, but insurance won't
Right.
pay anymore. So
Right.
because of that gap, when I moved to California, I started an LLC. I can't legally practice therapy independently as a PTA, a physical therapy
Hmm.
assistant, because I don't have my
Yeah.
doctorate's degree. So I just go over very thoroughly with my clients, like, you're not receiving therapy. What you are receiving is some education. We'll do some screenings on your body, see if there's any gross asymmetries or range of motion deficits. And then I educate them on how to handle it themselves,
Awesome.
whether that's stretching, corrective exercises, could be tissue release, self tissue release with like a foam roller or a ball. And I have a personal Instagram and then a business Instagram. And my Demo Wellness is my business Instagram. And that's all either inspirational, kick you in the butt kind of
Right.
content, or it is how to content so that people can take care of their bodies and hopefully live healthier and longer lives. As we were talking about earlier, drink your water, exercise. You're going to look good in your 30s, and you're going to be able to do things that other 70 or 80-year-olds can't do.
Yeah, it's super cool. How many people have you been able to have an impact with so far, or are they mostly people that have stuck around while you're out there?
I would say I probably rotate through 60 or 70 regulars. And then I've had, like, on my client list, I think I'm just over 200 people.
That's that's phenomenal, especially
Yeah.
for a new business. What, you've been out there for 3 years?
Almost, not quite three. I went full time. So I worked part time in the outpatient clinic when I first moved here, and I started up my LLC and I started kind of building that. I got here in March of 22, and by December of 22, that same year, I completely left the clinic and went full time with my business.
That's super cool.
So
Well,
two
I'm
full years.
impressed. Honestly, super impressed. What was the biggest thing that kind of helped you? Was it outreach, or was it just, hey, word of mouth, where people kind of buying into what you were telling them?
Yeah, it started as word of mouth, and recently it's been a little bit more outreach as I'm trying to get more tech savvy. So, like geotagging and things like that. And if I go into my Instagram, I think it's called like the Insights tab, it'll show you where most of your followers are from. And on my
Hmm.
business account, most of them are from San Diego. So, that's awesome. But initially, it was word of mouth. So essentially, what happened was I became friends with a girl out here who is a bodybuilder and a personal trainer.
Hmm.
And I was working on her, and she sent me one of her friends who was also a bodybuilder and a personal trainer. And essentially, once you hit those trainers and they like you, they send you all
Yeah.
of their clients.
Yeah.
So it started with those two, and it just blew up from there. My niche actually became bodybuilders, which wasn't
Wow. Okay.
an intention, but
Yeah.
I think that they see the most benefit because if they're tight, which most of them are, because they don't have any sort of mobility recovery routine, when we loosen up their tissue, they can hit their poses with greater ease and greater symmetry. We can do scraping to remove inflammation so they have that drier, striated look. If any
Hmm.
tissues are kind of like stuck together or adhese together, we can open that up. So they're in an aesthetic sport and we can make them look more aesthetically symmetrical and pleasing. So
Yeah.
that just kind
All
of
while
took
feeling
off.
better too.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, and being able to exactly being able to avoid injury from overuse and overtraining, because if your training stimulus is high and your recovery stimulus is low, this is where injury can happen. So when we bring up the recovery, they can keep pushing this without injury.
Very cool. I need to get with you. I haven't been.
Haven't
Parenthood
had
is
some body work in a while.
rough on the recovery. We could say that. I think it's always good to have an outside perspective. But that's super cool. And that just goes to show, guys, like if you have a valuable product that you get results with, people will help you be successful. I mean, never try to sell somebody on anything, just try to serve them. That's the
Oh,
best
I
advice I
like
can give
that.
anyone.
Oh,
Yeah.
I like that. And it's so true. It's
Yeah.
so true. I've definitely encountered people that come to me seeming like they're all in, but it's like pulling teeth to get them to make an appointment. And I usually just have a conversation with them and I say, listen, when you're ready, reach out, but I'm going to stop proactively reaching out because you're showing me that you're not ready, which is fine. It doesn't have to be a priority right now. That's your choice. I'm not going to try to change your mind. But those people that want to be there and value your service, they will show up. You don't have to sell them. You just have to
Yeah. Yeah,
provide
and
your.
those are the best people to work with. I have a couple of people right now and they're just like they're self starters. They're the best type of clients that you can ask for. And they're always asking me questions, they're motivated. They if I fall short as the person that works with them, they're like, "Hey, don't worry about it. Like I modified this." I'm like, "Oh, wow. Okay. Well, you made my job a lot easier. That's super cool." Where was I going with that? Yeah, so replace selling with serving. If you genuinely want to help somebody, they'll always be open to you helping solve their problem. I think the biggest thing that's helped me with getting through objection is just the opportunity cost, like explaining what the opportunity cost is. Like, hey, you said that you wanted to feel better. Well, what is the cost of you not taking action right now? Well, you're going to feel like shit for a few more months, probably, or a few more years if you don't do anything about it. And then how's
Yeah.
that going to affect your body? So, yeah, that's super cool. How has it been living out in California aside from having a very successful new business?
It's been awesome. It's been wonderful. Again, I left Michigan because I really needed to restructure my life, my work life balance. And I wanted the opportunity to train more like an athlete instead of somebody who just works out to be healthy and be fit. I
Hmm.
wanted to be really competitive. So moving out here, starting my own business, I get to make my own hours, which allows me to budget more time for training. My rates are 4 times what I would make hourly in the clinic. Granted, I pay my own taxes, but overall, on the whole, I'm making a lot more money. So all of these things, all of these changes afforded me a better lifestyle and a better work life balance. I get to train a lot more. If I want to, I can block off 2 hours midday and go get coffee or lunch with a friend. So my social life has improved. I'm in a fantastic relationship. Love my house. I got my 2 dogs. It's sunny almost all year round. And again, making more money off of my business and being my own business owner. I don't need to use PTO. If I want to go home to see my family, I have the funds to do that and I don't have to ask for time off. So it's been an awesome change in every aspect other than moving away from my family.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's the beauty of semi-remote work too. Do you have a lot of people that you work with in person, or is it mostly like, hey, I'm going to consult with you from home?
No, actually, most of my clientele are hands on in person. We do 30-minute or 60-minute sessions. I'll
Hmm.
run anywhere from 4 to 6 sessions a day. Something that I want to launch this year, however, is going to be online programs. It's
Okay,
going to
so you
take
are
me a little
moving
bit
to
of
that more.
time.
Gotcha.
Yes, because I see the need for it because I've probably had at least a dozen people reach out to me via my DMs and stuff, and they're asking me, "Hey, do you have online programs?" Or, "Hey, can you troubleshoot this issue that I'm having with me?" And as of right now, because I don't have an online program, I don't charge people. I'm not going to give you an entire recovery program, but if somebody comes to me and they're like, hey, I'm having some pain in my shoulder, I'll usually ask them, send me a picture or a video pointing where, demonstrate any movements that are bothering you, and explain the type of pain that you're feeling. How long has it been going on? Did something start it? So we'll go through all these questions, and then I'll make
Hmm.
like 3 or 4 recommendations. Try these things. They should reduce your pain. If they don't, let me know. We can circle back. So my DMs are always open to help people. And I will hopefully this year get some online programs out at a low cost that people can purchase and just run themselves through. But as of right now, all my work is really hands on.
Very cool. You guys heard it here first. Darci's DMs are always open, so that's good.
DMs are always open.
Hey, no, that's super cool. So online programming, yeah. Let me know if you want any help with that. I'm actually on a journey of that myself. So
Oh, I
learning
will.
to build a
Again, I'm
website,
not tech
build a
savvy.
program.
So, yes, I'm going to need help.
Yeah, I'll consider me a consultant. I'll help you out, whatever you
Perfect.
need. So living in California has been good. What is your favorite part of San Diego specifically?
Oh, that's kind of hard to choose.
Do they have good coffee culture out there? I'm a coffee guy.
So,
They
that's,
do?
I was debating. I was like, it might be the coffee.
Okay.
Honestly, the food is fantastic too. So this is like a great melting pot area, but we also get like authentic Mexican food because we're right by Tijuana.
Mm-hmm.
Probably my favorite thing is the variety of food. I do love the coffee culture is fabulous. When I moved out here, I was like, that's my mission, a new coffee shop every month. And I think I've actually probably stuck to that. But the food is fantastic because I think this is my theory. When you go out to eat, you can pick something naughty and something dirty that is soul food and it's going to feel good mentally but not physically, or they have tons of options that are also delicious but health conscious. And they're also very flexible out here about modifications or things like that. So if we want to go out to eat, I never have to worry about, is this meal going to impact my training, or will I be able to find something that fits my macros because I track macros? That's never an issue out here. And I love that freedom. My theory on that is that we live in a place where it's sunny most of the year, and most people walk around in bikinis or booty shorts or sports bras. And I think people want to look good. So I think they're a little bit more health conscious in their food choices. So we have that variety, which is compared to the Midwest, it's really nice.
Yeah, I think people are a lot more motivated to be healthy when their bodies are out in the sun. And
When you
I don't know. It's
literally
just
have
like,
some skin in the game.
yeah, it's like literally skin in the game. Like, I don't know. I'm pale. I'm a pale boy by nature. But when I when I when I when I get to a sunny place, I'm like, man, I love being tan. I look so much better when I'm tan.
Everyone does.
Yeah, like I look back at old pictures of myself. I'm like, the only thing that's different is your tan. What the hell, dude? So I don't know. I think I'm a little hard on myself, but I think the sunshine really helps a lot. So that's awesome. So you're big coffee girl. What's your drink of choice? Are you espresso or is it something else?
Honestly, I love I'm my own little barista. So I
Okay.
don't have an espresso machine yet, but I will have one someday. For right now, what I have is a whole pantry full of sugar-free syrups, like those skinny syrups.
Mm-hmm.
I also have sugar-free creamer in my fridge. I have my own cold brew. I make my own cold brew. I do add-ins. Like, have you ever heard of
Yeah.
Flavor God seasoning?
I've never heard of that actually.
Okay.
Flavor
Flavor
God?
God, yeah, they have
Okay.
sweet and savory seasonings, but we've got so many Flavor God seasonings. We also bought, I don't remember the brand, but another seasoning, it's my current favorite. It's vanilla waffle cone, and it's a
That sounds
powder.
awesome.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'll put some of that powder, I put my sugar-free creamer, maybe some sugar-free syrup, I froth it, I add my coffee. It's great. So I actually usually make my own cold brew with sugar-free add-ins, and it's delicious. I like it more than going to get coffee. And that says a lot because the coffee out here is great. If I'm out, I'll probably get a cold brew with a cold foam or a latte.
Okay. Yeah. My go-to is usually iced vanilla latte or like a hot vanilla latte. I will say the espresso sheen is worth it though. You should definitely
Oh, it's
invest.
I used to house sit for a friend that had one, and anytime she asked me to watch her house and her pets, the answer was yes, because I knew I got to use the espresso machine.
Yeah. I think Black Friday, Cyber Monday time frame is usually the best to like spring on those, but I'm sure that whatever company you're looking at will have another sale.
I just have to wait till I have a bigger kitchen.
Just
That's
got to
all.
save up your money, put it in a piggy bank, like you'll be good to go, you know? That's
It's
cool.
coming. I'll have one someday soon.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that you rode horses for a long time.
I did. Very long
Yeah.
time.
What got you into that? Did you have parents that got you into it? Was it somebody else? Like, how did you become a horse girl?
Um, so I actually, fun fact, didn't do any sports in school. None.
So you were the weird kid,
Yeah, no, literally they called me the horse girl.
the horse whisperer.
So I didn't do any sports in school. I didn't like any activities. I was kind of a chunky kid. And my parents tried to get me to do everything. Like I think might have tried tennis. I know I tried dance. They might have put me in gymnastics, and I hated all of it. I was such an introvert, which I still am. But I had a friend that basically said to me, "Hey, my parents are going to take me to this horseback riding place. Do you want to come with me?" And I
Hmm.
was like, "Sure." So I asked my parents, "Can I go with my friend Casey to ride horses?" And I did this one. I think it was like might have been a summer camp or something. So it was like 4 weeks long. And then at the end of the 4 weeks, I was crying and I was like, please let me keep going. I don't want to stop. And that was it. It was the only thing I ever like. To this day, my dad's like, you had to pick the most expensive hobby. You couldn't do dance or
Yeah.
cheerleading. He's like, you had to pick horseback riding.
Yeah.
But it was the one thing I liked, and it got me out of the house. It got me active. It got me socializing. So my parents were like, fine, just do it.
Did you get your own horse eventually?
I did. I started riding when I was 9, and I asked my parents if I could have a horse when I was like 11, and they said, "Sure, but you have to buy it." So I got a job at a horse farm when I was 11 years old, and I think when I was 14, I bought my first horse. And I say I bought him, but I had money saved up. My parents bought him for me. So, yeah, I got my first horse when I was 14. I owned 3 different horses over my lifetime. A lot of people don't know this. You can lease horses, like you can lease a car.
Did not know
So
that. That's crazy.
yeah, I probably had like 7 different horses that I leased, and I rode competitively too. I did probably about 10 years of hunter jumper,
Hmm.
literally like jumping over the fences.
Okay. Cool.
And then I switched my last 5-ish years. I went into barrel racing and I did rodeos.
Wow.
Yeah,
I did not know that. Rodeos are awesome. I
they
went
are.
to
They're
my
very
first
fun.
rodeo. I went to my first rodeo. What year was it? It had to be like, I think it was summer of 2019. We went all the way out to Wyoming and it was sick. I didn't realize how many Australians in America were into rodeo, but it's like just a flood of Aussies. And they're like, oh, yeah, mate, hop on the back of a bull, you know? I don't know. It's super cool. But barrel racing is awesome too. Just the whole atmosphere. How long did you do that for?
The barrel racing,
Yeah.
probably like 5-ish years, I think 5 or 6. Basically,
Okay.
until the horse that I had who passed 2 years ago, until he retired. Once he retired, I was pretty much done with the barrel racing competitively.
Yeah. What's the relationship like between the horse and the rider? Is that something that is hard to develop, or is it like it's just there to, you know,
It's
put up
hard to
with?
develop if the person doesn't know how to listen.
Okay.
That's I saw this, gosh, I always forget his name. Chris Willix or Wilkes. He does fantastic podcasts. I follow him on Instagram.
Chris Williamson, is it Williams? I
It
feel
might
like
be
it's Williamson,
Williamson.
the modern wisdom podcast.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he interviewed this rodeo guy, this famous rancher, and he was
Yes.
asking about like the relationship between rider and horse, or how horses can teach people things. And he had this fantastic quote about how horses will teach communication to a person like no one or no other thing being can. Because, first of all, horses don't speak English.
Hmm.
So you have to learn their language. And then on top of that, you not only have to learn how to communicate with them what you want from them, but you also have to learn how to read what they're telling you. So it's this silent language or this silent dance back and forth, but it is one of the coolest feelings when you and a horse become in tune,
Hmm.
because this is going to sound really cheesy. I actually just thought of this. You ever seen the movie Avatar,
Yeah.
where they take their braid and they like plug into yes,
That's
I'm not
amazing.
kidding. That's what it's like.
Holy
Like
shit.
you
Darci
start
Molina's an avatar.
functioning. It's wild. You start functioning as one unit,
Yeah.
to the point that like if you lose your balance, depending on the horse, right, and the relationship you have with the horse, but like if you
Mhm.
lose your balance and the horse feels it, they'll scoop under you to save you.
Wow.
Like
That's cool.
it's very, very cool. It's a relationship unlike any other, and I describe it as different than a relationship with like a cat or a dog, right? They're not just a
Yeah.
pet. I tell
Right.
people they're not a pet, they're your partner. And not like partner romantic, obviously, but it
But
is a
yeah.
very different relationship because especially if you're doing it for sport, you guys are a team.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a very tight bond and tight relationship that's not like anything else I've ever experienced.
Was that hard for you when your last horse passed away then?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually why it's part of the reason why I haven't re-entered horseback riding.
Mm.
I did ride a couple horses back in October, considering maybe leasing one, but it was really emotional for me actually. I definitely cried. And what I was just telling you about that bond that you have when you've been with a horse for a long time, that was missing, and that brought so much heartache for me. And I know I could have that back, but it takes time to foster. And the emptiness of it dissuaded me more than the desire to rebuild that relationship with another horse at this time. So I'm taking a break. Another reason we talked about this earlier, anything that I do that isn't Olympic weightlifting is taking time away, taking literal energy, adding stress. So, with how competitive I'm trying to be with lifting right now, that's just not worth it. So, it's on the back burner. Someday I'll circle back to it because it's something for your soul, really. As cheesy as that sounds.
Very cool. If this was more supposed to be about weightlifting, but now I'm curious about horseback riding. If
Run it.
somebody's like a younger kid or they want to get into the horseback riding space, how do they do that?
Go on Google and type in horseback riding lessons near me.
Okay.
Done.
Cool.
And then if you want to do, there's two main styles. English is one, Western is the other. There's several differences, but like the main thing you'll notice right away is the saddle is different. You have
Mhm.
a lot more support in Western.
Gotcha.
So if you're somebody who's nervous about falling, maybe go the Western route to start. But it also depends. Like if you have a vision in your head, like I want to jump, well, then you're going to go English. I want a barrel race, then you're going to go Western. So if you have a curiosity that you know you want to dive down, add that to your Google search. Barrel racing lessons near me. And you'll find farms and then you just call them up and get it going. Yeehaw.
Yeehaw. Do you view yourself as a country girl or are you like, I'm new school?
No, I don't view myself as
Okay.
a country girl. I probably once upon a time would have said yes, but I dabble, right? So I don't think I would ever categorize myself in one singular identity. One of my coworkers used to tell me every day I saw her at work, she would tell me, "You're such an enigma. You're just an enigma."
That's a cool compliment, honestly.
Well, it's a cool compliment, but my vocabulary isn't very rich. So I looked at her and I was like, "Vicky, what does that mean?" she, she had to
What's
explain it
an
to me.
enigma?
And then I was like, dang, that's a cool compliment. Thank you.
Yeah, you're like, I don't know how I feel about that big word you used, but I like it.
Did you just call me an amoeba?
That's funny.
So yeah.
Well, I don't know what you initially had. Um, I remember we went our separate ways, right? Life takes us on different journeys. I remember one day I saw one of your videos, you were weightlifting. I don't know what you were doing at the time, but I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, I haven't seen much from Darci in a while. And then I go to your page and you had like 70,000 followers. And I was like, what the fuck happened there? So tell us about how that's been, how that's changed things for you. And I mean, it may or may not have changed anything, but talk about that because that's pretty substantial blow up right there.
Yeah. So this is actually I love this topic because it's hilarious to me.
Yeah.
I don't care how many followers I have. I don't care one bit. But it's funny because people will see my page and then I'll meet them in person and they'll be like, "You're Instagram famous." And I just chuckle and I'm
Yeah.
like, "No, no, I'm not." So
Right.
and a lot of people ask me too, "Did you buy your followers?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't buy my followers. I don't care how many I could have two." It's fine
Yeah.
with
If you buy your followers, you're a loser, in my humble opinion.
I mean, I guess to each their own. It's just not for me. I would rather spend my money on the coffee out here.
I would rather just be a cool guy that people like to
Yeah.
engage with, you
Well,
know?
I wish I could say that too, but that's not even what happened. So what happened was, I think it was last year, I posted a video of me doing snatches.
Mhm.
And I think I had like 80 kilos on the bar. And what happened was I did my pull, I jumped under to receive the bar, and I got into my squat position with my arms overhead, but one of my knees dropped down to the ground.
Ooh, yeah.
But I didn't lose the bar, and I was being stubborn that day. And so
Uh,
I popped my knee back up, and then I stood the lift up.
nice.
And I did that. There was an audio that was trending at the time. It was the Soldier Boy where he goes, you,
Yep, yep, I
and it just
remember.
kind of up and down. So I used that audio, and that video went viral. It got like 2 million views. I had 4,000 followers at the time, and I went up to 80,000.
Wow, that's cool.
So that's
That's
what
really
happened.
cool.
I had a video of me failing a lift go viral, and I got a bunch of followers. And if I look at the statistics on those followers, they're from like Casablanca, Tehran,
Oh,
Baghdad. Yeah.
you can
Weird.
find yourself a Middle Eastern sugar daddy.
I
Who
guess.
knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? To each their own. That's cool though. I don't really care about follower count either. I just care about like quality of said person that I'm networking with.
Exactly.
I think for me, I've really tried to get away from like the consumerism of Instagram because there's so many people that are like, buy this, buy that, buy this, buy this, my mentorship, my program. And I'm like, I just want to know people that are going to elevate me. So it's been cool. I mean, definitely use that to grow your brand however you can. Because like you mentioned earlier, like fame is fleeting here and
Yeah.
there. So
Yes.
that's super cool. Have you ever lived anywhere else besides Michigan and California?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
I grew up in Michigan, lived in the same house. Like we didn't even move when I was a child. I grew up in the house that I was like not born in, but born into until I was in my 20s. And then I moved in with a boyfriend, ended up moving back home, moved in with a friend. I actually had 3 guy roommates. That was fun.
Hmm. I remember that because
Yeah,
I was like, your house is messy, and you're just like, I don't want to hear it. Like, I have 3 dudes I live with. Fuck off.
literally, literally. I wasn't, isn't there a show called New Girl where she has like 3 male
Yeah,
roommates? That's what it felt
yeah.
like. I
Okay.
felt like New Girl. And
Gosh,
then I
that's an
moved
interesting
out to
dynamic.
Cali from my 3 boy roommates.
Yeah. Are you still friends with them today?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Have
Two
they
of
been
them.
out to Cali?
One of them was kind of a hermit. We didn't talk a lot. There was no issue there. He was a very introvert.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
him and I aren't still in touch, but the other 2 I'm still in touch with.
Cool, cool. Have they
And
ever
no,
come to
they've
visit?
not been out here.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Cool, cool. What was I gonna ask? Oh, yeah. If you could live anywhere that you wanted to, obviously, if money wasn't an object or whatever, like where would you go that you've never been before?
For travel or to live?
Let's do live and then we'll do travel.
Okay, to live, I don't know. I don't know. I have to travel more. I want to say there's actually a part of me that really wants to go back to like my what did you say? Your country girl? My country girl roots.
Yeah.
A big part of me wants to like live in Montana and like
Okay.
have my own farm and stuff like that. Even though I remember what a pain in the ass it is to live on a
Yeah.
farm.
Yeah.
There are no days off. But a part of me misses that, and I could see that if money was no issue, that'd be great. That'd be great. Possibly somewhere a little more remote. I'm not a city girl, that's for sure. I hate the city. I'm an introvert.
Yeah.
I don't like people.
Yeah. Montana's dope. I was out there the same year that I went to Wyoming and it's absolutely gorgeous. Like those are some hardworking people, especially when it snows in like August. And you're like, ooh,
Yeah.
that's gonna be some tough work. But do you think that you would ever like try to do any type of homesteading or anything, considering you want to be more rural one day?
To be determined.
To be determined. Are you a conspiracy theorist?
No.
No? Okay. Just asking. What was I gonna ask you? Where would you live? Oh. So if you're not a country girl, what's your favorite type of music? What do you like to train? What do you like to train with at the gym?
So it depends on my mood. I flip between like 2, I guess, main genre. One of them is heavy bass EDM.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want to break my neck headbanging to it.
Okay.
That's one. The other one, if sometimes the bassy stuff can give me a headache. So if I'm a little burnt out on it, I turn
Mhm.
that off and I'll honestly usually throw on Limp Bizkit radio.
Limp Biscuit. Okay.
Like, give me Fred. Bring Freddie. Give me
Wow.
Fred Durst. He's great. So yeah, it'll cycle through, Disturbed, Slipknot, Limp Bizkit. And then there's days where I'm maybe in like a darker headspace. And my
Mhm.
go-to is a band called Sleep Token. I don't think a lot of
Sleep
people.
Token?
Yeah, I love them. They're awesome. Their songs, they have good vocals, but they build and then they get pretty heavy.
Okay. I'll have
And
to
I'm
check
also a
that out.
nerd. I like Viking culture and like Nordic runes, and their album cover is a bunch of runes. So they appease to my nerd side.
Were you a big Vikings fan when it was out?
I actually didn't watch Vikings. I watched The Last Kingdom.
Last Kingdom. Okay.
And because I
Some
watched
good
The Last Kingdom
recommendations here.
first, yeah, I thought it was great. I watched The Last Kingdom first and then I tried watching Vikings, but I kept comparing it to The Last Kingdom and I didn't like it. So
Gotcha. So, as a high level female athlete, what are some challenges that you've had to work through? And obviously, you're in tune with your health and wellness. There's different factors that females have to take into consideration when it comes to their training. How have you worked around that, and what have you found works for you and then other people that you work with?
I honestly, I guess I've never thought about training as a female in comparison to like men's training.
Hmm.
I just see it as training. Like
Okay.
to me, training is black and white. You're going to
Gotcha.
show up and you're going to give 100% of whatever 100% of that day is, right? Because 100% could look different from day to day. So you have to show up and give 100% of that day, whatever that looks like. And to me, that's the mission, guy, female, regardless. I do know some women struggle training around their cycle. I'm
Hmm.
fortunate that that's not an issue for me. But again, I think my overall mentality of show up, give 100%, whatever that is for that day, I think that that helps mitigate any possible issues of training around my cycle because that's how I present myself every day.
Gotcha. Do you think that you'd attribute that to tracking macros? I know you mentioned that earlier as well. I personally love tracking macros. I feel better when I can
I
see
do
that I've
too.
eaten enough. You do notice a change in your energy levels as well.
So yeah, I don't know if I attribute that mentality to tracking macros, but tracking macros definitely helps for me. And I know it's not for everybody, but like you said, I will tend to undereat, not to
Hmm.
the point of losing weight per se, but I will tend to undereat when I'm not tracking. And when I track and I eat enough food or I'm eating more than I think I should, I end up
Hmm.
having all this extra energy, which enhances my performance, which obviously matters to me. So, yeah, for me, I also love tracking my macros.
Very cool. Very cool. What do you think is the thing that drives the needle the furthest as far as performance goes for you? Like, is there a certain method of recovery that you like the most? Is it foam rolling, sauna? Like, what do you practice in your routine?
Prior to every lifting session, I have like a 20 to 30-minute warm up, and it's going to be a couple static stretches for my chronically tight areas.
Hmm.
And then I typically go into a dynamic warm up where I'm still pushing range of motion, but I'm flowing back and forth at a faster rate so that I get more blood flow and I
Hmm.
get warm. And then the third thing I'll do is usually banded primers, or I'll hop on some of the machines to prime certain muscle groups. I might hit quads and hamstrings and then like get on the leg press or something to hit a couple like squat like movements before I go grab my barbell. I might grab a band, work my hips and my shoulders a little bit. But that's pretty much I have all three of those usually. Static stretching first, dynamic warm up next, and then priming movements for stability, joint stability third.
Hmm.
So because I do that for 20 to 30 minutes before every training session, I don't really have to have this massive program where I'm doing yoga twice a week or sauna twice a week. I do like to throw the sauna in. I just don't do it very frequently because it's not convenient. I don't have one at home, so I've got to drop in somewhere. What I
Hmm.
do regularly, though, to boost recovery is I alternate ART, which is active release therapy,
Okay.
The guy I see he's certified in ART, but he practices more of a hybrid of ART with deep tissue, and I really like it.
Hmm.
I see him. Shout out Derek Farnsworth. Thanks for my awesome body work. I
Thanks,
see
Derek.
him. Thanks, Derek. I see him bi-weekly, and the weeks I don't see him, I go to a facility called Nalu Healing Arts out here in San Diego, and they do acupuncture.
Okay.
So I get something done every single week, deep tissue release or acupuncture.
Awesome. I've never had acupuncture. I want to
I
start.
love it.
Did you
Love.
need any kind of referral for that, or was it just like you
No,
show up?
certain facilities will run based on insurance, and then others are out of pocket.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to find someone around here to do that. Well,
highly
very
recommend it.
cool. Very, very cool. So if there are, this is the motivational part. Are you ready for
Oh,
this?
okay, I'll
Okay.
try.
This is all you. It's all you.
Okay,
I hope you're ready.
I'm
So
sweating
for
now.
little girls, little girls, recently became a dad. I got a little boy, but I'm assuming at some point I'm due for a little girl. For the little girls out there who want to get involved in strength sports, who might not necessarily have the support system, or maybe they don't have a coach, or they just have an interest in it and they want to get started, what would you say to them? Knowing your whole journey panned out and where you started as a younger person.
Honestly, I would tell a young person to try lots of things because that's one thing I regret. And I think that's part of why in my adult life I like to dabble so much is because I told you I didn't do anything until I was 9. I started horseback riding, and that's all I did. The first time I went into a gym, I was 21.
Hmm. Okay.
So I feel that I missed that opportunity. So for somebody that's young, I would tell them to try several things because you might think you want to do weightlifting, but it's really process of elimination. And I think
Yeah.
there was actually a Matthew McConaughey graduation speech where he says people ask what you want to do and you don't know. The reality is you do not know until process of elimination. You try and decide this is for me or this isn't for me. So even if somebody thinks they want to get into weightlifting or a barbell sport or something like that, honestly, a great place to start, in my opinion, is CrossFit. Find a CrossFit gym because you're going to try so many different movements. And that's how I fell in love with the barbell. And I went down this route because I knew this was it for me. I had traveled back to the barbell twice, once for powerlifting, once for Olympic weightlifting. But that's a great place to start, but try other things too. I didn't start dance until I was 31 years old. I didn't try rock climbing until I think I was 29 or 30.
Hmm.
But process of elimination, try all the things, whatever you like, go for it. CrossFit gives you good exposure to several things. If you're not sure where to find something, again, Google. You can find anything on the internet. Just
Yeah.
Google rock climbing near me, dance classes near me, weightlifting gyms near me. I would definitely recommend for somebody getting into it. There are online options, online programs and coaches. But if you're new to it, the safest route and the route that you're going to learn the fastest is with someone in person. So I would
Yeah.
try to find an in-person coach so you can learn how to move properly. That way you prevent injury. And then maybe at some point, if that's not convenient for you, you can go the remote route.
Yeah. Very good. I like that advice. I don't know how popular weightlifting clubs are still, but I know that in Nashville we've got one. But yeah, I mean, looking for like a local weightlifting club too is probably something that would help because there's like-minded people everywhere that can help you.
Yeah.
So we're at about an hour now. I got one more question for you, and this is primarily for the dudes to offer some female perspective, right?
Let's go.
Let's go. It's all about development here, and then we'll do some hot takes or some rapid fire questions, and then we'll go from there. Okay. So you mentioned you're in a fantastic relationship. That's super cool. Congratulations. What have you noticed has been the biggest help with that? Like, how did you get into a fantastic relationship? And for the guys out there who are maybe struggling with dating or trying to figure out themselves, trying to figure out who their partner should be, trying to vet people properly, like what would you say to them?
Number one, authenticity.
Okay.
You have to be authentic to yourself before you can present yourself to someone else, right? And you want someone to love you for who you truly are. So you have to be authentic to yourself. That's number one. Number two is transparency. I actually just had this conversation with a client of mine. She was telling me about her dating life, and she wants to date someone who messages her, texts her every day. She's been talking to this guy for 2 weeks, and he isn't very communicative with her. And so she was about to write him off. And I already know from her history, she has avoidant attachment style. So
Hmm.
any red flag, she just runs. And she said, I don't want to tell him to talk to me more because I want him to be authentic. I want it to come from him. And I said, can I challenge you on that? And she goes, sure. I said, you want someone who will text you every day, right? That's the kind of relationship and interaction you want. And she goes, yeah. I said, you're waiting for him to text you. Why aren't you texting him? And she
Hmm.
goes, well, I want to see his true colors. I said, isn't it possible he's doing the same thing? And she goes, oh, shoot, I never thought of it that way. So, another similar story, my dad went on a date with my now stepmom, and they had their first date, and there was a miscommunication. I'll call you. I'll call you. My dad thought she was going to call. She thought my dad was going to call. 2 weeks goes by. My dad's moping around the house. She hasn't called. And I said, Dad, if you care this much, call her. And he goes, no, she said she was going to call me. She hasn't called. She must not like me. And I said, if you like her this much, you call her and at least get closure. He called her. They went on a second date. And to this day, they laugh about it that you were supposed to call me. No, you were supposed to call me. They've been married for, I think, 7 years now. And I'm like,
Hmm.
you could have passed up the love of your life because you weren't just being transparent or authentic. So be authentic to yourself, present that version of you to the person you're interested in, and be transparent. Date number one, I went on with my guy. He was like, hey, it's date number one. I'm going to drop some bombs on you. I don't want kids. If we do, this is our first and last date. And I like looked at him and I said, wow, thank you for saving
Okay.
so, yes, thank you for saving me so much time. Why do I want to get to know you for months before we have this conversation?
Yeah.
And one of
What
the
I
things I
mean,
presented to him was, I want to get married. I know you're apprehensive about that. Think about it for a little bit. But if you decide that's not for you, let me know because I'm stepping back. And
nice.
we've just had that communication from the forefront. And then I would say number three is communicate, right? You have to communicate. Don't skip over talking about the hard things or the little things. My man knows I hate the way he loads the dishwasher, but you know what we do about it? We laugh.
Yeah,
He tells me that I micromanage. I tell him he can't load a dishwasher for shit, and we both laugh because we're both right.
that's so true.
But it's not a battle. I'm not going to come home and start throwing dishes. That's not a
Right.
battle I'm going to choose. If it bothers me that much, I can restack the dishwasher.
Yeah.
Like, if I don't want to restack the dishwasher, then I need to let it go. Right? So
Yeah.
choose your battles would be my third piece of advice. But have those conversations. The people that don't talk about the fact that the dishwasher is loaded the way they don't like, they hold it and they harbor it, and then they're going to explode about something in a couple of days that's insignificant. So, like, talk about the hard things, even if you're going to laugh about them. Just put it all out on the table. The transparency.
That's very true.
But
Very true.
we have hard talks, and we're also very both growth mindset forward.
Hmm.
So one of the things that we do is every Sunday we do, like, I guess you could call it a connection activity. I don't really know what to call it. We will either listen to a podcast about relationship advice. We'll go to Chat GPT and ask for a prompt. Like,
Okay.
give me a prompt to better communicate with my partner. Give me a prompt to overcome broken trust with my partner. And we'll literally print it out, sit down, and almost like we're journaling together. We also have bought several relationship advice books, and we'll take turns reading to each other for like an hour. But we always do an hourly Sunday activity where we are communicating, we're being transparent, we're bonding, we're listening. And I think everyone should do that at least once a week.
That's super cool. I've never heard of the Chat GPT method. That thing's awesome.
It's
It like solves
it's
so many
one.
problems. You're like, Chat GPT, will you be my friend, please?
I'm not gonna lie. There's days I can't think of content to post, and I'm like, Chat GPT, what's something motivational? It's just
Dude,
boom.
it, I don't know if you've ever I don't know if you've ever heard of the real Brian Mark on Instagram, but
No.
he was a trainer, like an online trainer, but now he helps other trainers build their businesses. So I would give him a follow because he just gives away like nuggets of info, and he uses ChatGPT a lot too.
What was his
So
name? Brian what?
Brian Mark,
Brian Mark. I shall
yeah,
look
and
him
his
up.
wife's name is Kristen Mark, and they both work together. They just made 10 million last year in revenue, so they're rolling in dough.
That's where I'm going to be next year. So
I mean, could be all the guys from Tehran and stuff.
it could
You
be.
got this.
You're right. I just have to find the right one.
Yeah, just vet him properly, and then have that hard talk with your guy. Like, hey, I have a Middle Eastern sugar daddy.
He would tell me to full send it.
Of course.
We
Of
communicate.
course. But no, I love all that advice. I also think it's really important for dudes to have some non-negotiables too. And it's not to the point where they like limit themselves, but if there's red flags, like are there any red flags that you look for in men that you're just like, nah, I'm all set?
Yeah, and actually this is one that I would add, like, for guys to take this as a piece of advice. Be vulnerable. Be emotional. If you can't tap into your own emotions, then you don't have emotions to offer me, or you don't have the capacity to hold space for my emotions. And that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, guys who cry, good. Great.
Hmm.
You actually have feelings. That's a wonderful thing. Don't hide that shit. Embrace it. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying you gotta, be in a
Cry
depressive
all the
state and
time.
cry every day. Yeah. But if
Right.
if that's what you're going through, fine, be transparent about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just that's a red flag for me. If you don't have emotional awareness, emotional maturity, emotional vulnerability, I'm out.
Yeah. There's a book called Battle Cry by Jason Wilson, and he basically talks how he struggled with like anger issues in his marriage, and he got through that through communicating with his wife. He was like, I wasn't necessarily going to react to everything or cry or whatever. It's not always the right time or place to let out those emotions, but being able to talk through how you feel, how someone makes you feel about a certain thing, it's a huge game changer, because you're like, oh, I can actually articulate how I'm feeling, and I don't have to just be mad about this all the time.
Yeah. And it's hard at first. Like, it's gonna feel unnatural. It's gonna feel anxiety inducing. And that's guy or girl. Like, having hard conversations is hard.
Right.
But when
Right.
you do it, it gets easier, and just watch your relationships blossom. It also does something for you internally, because you start to learn where your boundaries are and how to set them and how to hold true to them, which
Hmm.
gives you a level of security and confidence that you never had before.
Yeah. I love that. All right. So we've kind of been down a bunch of rabbit holes now.
Yeah, this was dope.
Yeah, no, I would love to have you back on here. I think we can definitely benefit from having a woman's touch on the show.
We'll let the bros decide.
Woman's touch, yeah. Hell yeah. All right, let's get that. That's the thumbnail. That's the
That's the thumb.
thumbnail. Also, don't
Perfect.
forget to send me like a professional photo, or even one of you like mid snatch clean and jerk. I would love to use that for the cover of the episode too.
All right.
If you
I'll
have,
do
I'm
that.
sure you have some.
Yeah, I've got old comp photos.
Yeah. Are you
We'll definitely.
sponsored by anybody right now?
No.
No?
No, I actually was just I guess complaining about that the other day. I've been looking for a sponsor for so long, and I'm at the point of being bitter. I said the next time somebody goes to sponsor me, I'm going to tell them no thank you.
Hell yeah. I will. When we get to that point, I'll send you some merch. How's that sound?
Perfect.
We'll send you merch. We'll
All
do
right.
a Super Bros onesie or a
Love it.
leotard.
Love it.
Shout out Hook Grip. Shout out Ray Ban. Shout out Tier, Nike, whatever you want. We got you. Uh,
Perfect.
go sponsor Darci. She deserves it. So let's do some rapid fire questions. What is your favorite book?
Oh, that's a horrible question. I'm not
I
much
ask
of a
everyone
reader.
this. I need a bigger library.
Okay, I'm not much of a reader, but actually, one book that I did read that I've read more than once is The Five Love Languages. Great relationship advice, helps you learn more about yourself and your partner and ways to communicate with them. So, helpful book, but yeah, we'll say The Five Love Languages.
Okay. Favorite place you've ever traveled to?
Honestly, Utah. I did some
Utah.
hiking in Utah, and it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
There's something in the water there. I love it there.
Yeah, same.
Favorite, you kind of touched on this earlier, favorite band.
Sleep, either
Sleep
Sleep
Token.
Token If I'm going hard or if I'm in a little bit of a calmer mood, another band that nobody knows about, look up 2 Feet. TWOFEET. 2 Feet.
2 feet, 2 feet.
You're
All right.
laughing until you listen to it and you're gonna be like, dang, this is a vibe.
Yeah, I'm gonna check them out after this. If you could only do one lift for the rest of your life, would it be snatch or clean and jerk, or would it be something else that I didn't even think about?
Oh, that's hard. Historically, I would have said clean and jerk without hesitation, but my snatches are kind of coming together, and there is nothing more satisfying than when your snatch like is crispy and beautiful, and you're just yeeting weight overhead. I still think I would say clean and jerk.
Okay. Favorite CrossFit workout, if you have one?
I do, and it's probably Isabel.
Oh, that's the ring dips and clean and jerks, or the
No,
cleans, right?
Isabel. There's Isabel and Grace. One of them is 30 clean and jerks in as fast as possible, and then for time. And then the other one is snatches. I like the
Gotcha.
30 snatches. I think the
Oh,
women's are at,
yes.
yeah, it's 95 pounds.
That one sucks, dude. What's your time? What's your time in that?
So I haven't done it in years, but I probably did it 4 years ago and I did it unbroken. And my time was like, I want to say that it was like 47 seconds.
Holy shit. All right.
Because I
Wow.
looked it up against the CrossFit Games athletes, like the top in the world at the time, and I would have been like
Yeah.
second place.
Wow. That's really cool. I thought my like 117 was impressive, but
My
damn,
forearms were so dysfunctional after that, like just stuck.
you're going to be unwell after that.
Yeah, I
That's
was
damn good for you. All right. Well, I think I ran out of questions, but this has
perfect.
been really fun. Guys, Darci Molina. I got one more. What's next? What's next for you? We talked about this offline, but I want to hear it from you. Positive affirmations only. What are you going to do next?
So my hopeful trajectory is we would like to compete at the Arnold Classic,
Hell
which
yeah.
is the end of February, beginning of March. And the reason for going there is to increase my total. My total right now is 225 kilograms. We want to get somewhere between 231 and 235. Doing that will increase my odds of being selected for Team USA, which is my goal right now. I'm trying to get one of those singlets, trying to get a spot, represent the country on Team USA. And if that happens, there's an international meet in Colombia in July called the Pan Am. And we would love to go to the Pan Ams and represent Team USA. The issue, if anyone's out there and you have a competitor's ticket to the Arnold for weightlifting that you're not going to use, DM me. My DMs are always open.
Yeah.
The registration is full right now, so I can't get into this competition. If we don't get in, then we have a plan B route. Route B is going to be the national championships, which is in Colorado in June. That's where we'll try and boost up my total. I will miss Pan Am's most likely, but there is the World Cup in December of next year. So we would be trying to make it to the World Cup to get on Team
Gotcha.
USA. But Team USA is the next goal.
That would be super cool to see you on Team USA. And hopefully, if you're able to make it down to the Arnold, just let me know. I'd love to come watch you. So, yeah. Hell yeah, guys. Darci Molina, the reigning, defending American Open champion for women's weightlifting, soon to be Team USA women's weightlifting.
We're putting it into the universe. We're going to manifest it.
Absolutely. I'm excited to follow your journey. Guys, go give her a follow at Darci Molina, right?
It's Darci, DARCI _Mo, MO.
Cool. Go give her a follow. Help her get to where she needs to go. That's all I got to say. We'll have you back on here soon. I really enjoyed this, but
I would love to.
appreciate you, Darci.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.